defense missile tests. Dr. Meth successfully integrated knowledge and his career with his very strong Torah outlook and lifestyle. He dressed and conducted himself with pride, and even recounted how a beloved Rebbe forcefully told him, warned him, that it could not be done. The warning was one he treasured humorously, and he felt that warning enabled him to stay on track. Daughter Miri recalls how in his office in Northern Virginia, he had shelves of Sforim, and she grew up thinking that that's just the way everyone's office looked. During lunch break, he pursued his learning, deeply devoted to Daf Yomi and to other learning. Many of us were treated to his physics calculations, including his analysis of Noah's Teva and how much water it displaced, as well as to the Oro. Oro no sayest no so. The physical fact that its golden rings were never intended to be weight-bearing. He graduated Columbia in 1971 with a PhD, and his experience focused on lasers. Sheldon and Marcia, Tibodo L'chaim Tovim, his beloved wife, moved to Silver Spring, originally to the White Oak Garden Apartments, and then to the Burtmill Townhouses. 1987, the home that they now lived in, for a total in our community of over 40 years. Sheldon had a great relationship with Rav Winter Zatzal, and after the children graduated Yeshiva of Greater Washington, Rav Winter was influential that the boys should go to Chafetz Chaim, a blessing for the family in so many ways. For a significant portion of recent years, Sheldon was on one form of dialysis or another. For a long time, they stored the boxes, filling a large room in the home to enable home dialysis. Sheldon commented to me and to others many times how wondrous the kidney is, that Hashem bestowed such a gift to a person. And even a room full of equipment couldn't quite duplicate the miracle that Hashem gave. He was so appreciative to the medical staff, to the family, for the miracles. We got so used to the miracles that we kind of thought that for sure there was just another one around the corner. There were many emotions that I recall that Sheldon was a role model for. The way he called out Hamelech, the king, as he began Shachris on Yom Norayim, and then walked with determination, with concentration, with responsibility, to take the position of the Amud to lead the service. If it's age appropriate, that's your choice. But I wish we could tell the children the children of the community, the children of Klal Yisrael, that someone who really loved them passed away. Even if he didn't know you personally, he was davening for you. Among the emotions I recall is one particular one. He had a smile. It wasn't his regular smile that he greeted you with. It was a reflective smile, a radiant smile, an internal glow, smiling in a very profound way. And I noticed it emerge on certain occasions. I noticed it when he was weak, having trouble walking, and he needed a walker. I noticed when he was sitting in the lobby in the wheelchair, waiting to be driven home. And I noticed it once when we were sitting around talking about a certain defense project in the Mideast and wondering if he had anything to do with it. And he wouldn't acknowledge, but I saw the smile. And I think that particular smile was the joy of savoring Hashem's blessing when we overcome difficult circumstances. When there was a challenge, and he knew that it was only Hashem's blessing that enabled him to find the solution of a walker or a wheelchair, or a defense strategy and invention to overcome the challenge and do what was needed. Sheldon forged some awesome relationships, including that with Aaron Yehuda Sussman, 30-year Chavrusa, bonded in friendship in so many ways, and other treasured relationships. If there was a mitzvah to be had, Torah, Masim Tovim, Tzedakah, he was there, but so discreetly that if you didn't pay attention, you didn't notice. I had the gift of sitting next to Dr. Meth, an arm's length. And it was very convenient. If I wasn't sure what the meaning of the shul was, how it was done, under Rav Lindy Zatzal, what's the Mesorah from Rav Bernstein Zatzal, I just reached over and asked him. Of course, when it came to Aharachman, he would first answer, the minute is to argue. But he was always reliable. A number of months ago, I asked him to record them and hug him up the shul. I didn't want to open the document. He did it, he sent it to me. I didn't want to open it, because opening it meant something. I was much more comfortable asking him personally. Today I opened it. Meticulous as everything he did, with a flavor that captured the shul. I don't think it's far-fetched to take the bold step and invite Moreinu Rav Yoshua ben Rav Menachem Mendel Bernstein Zatzal. And Moreinu Rav Kolonius Kamen ben Shmuel Winter Zatzal. To greet you, Sheldon, as a loyal congregant, as a loyal Talmud, as a loyal Baal Tefillah, as the Ben Torah about Talmud Chacham that you emerged to be. He had so much to offer. One of the congregants who had the privilege of being his wheelchair pusher on Shabbos morning told me, it's a treat, it's a gift. Dr. Meth is in the wheelchair. I have a captive audience. I can ask him anything I want. Torah, science, life. And he responds. He's got something to say. Marsha, you built an awesome Torah home together. You partnered well. You cared. And you provided our Dr. Meth with the pride, with the dignity, with such devotion. To the children, he loved you very much and was very proud. I think he expressed it to you, but he certainly expressed it to many of us. At this time, we'll turn to the family for Divrei Hesped, and we'll start with Brother Jack.
Sheldon, the Yitzhak Isaac, is named after our mother's father, who was the Rosh Kol, the Count of Zafra. That Shlomo Zalman is in the center of a photograph of the Sacred Torah Nilchova that some of you may have seen. My brother and his namesake were both interested in technology, although separated by 50 or 70 years. While my mother would talk about her father and his curiosity about science, I always remember that my brother's curiosity was directed upwards to the heavens. From the baby brother of the family, when I was chanting Twinkle, Twinkle, he was studying star maps, charts, and magnitudes. He tried to grind his own concave mirror for his own little telescope, while he saved mine to buy a real one from Edmund Scientific. That telescope is still in Silver Spring. While Torah is the epitome of knowledge, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, the third paragraph in the 18th Mishnah of Pirkei Avos says, seasons and mathematics are the spices of knowledge. The Hebrew words tukufos and gematrios, which technically means seasons and mathematics, is also known in those days as the study of heavenly bodies, astronomy. The Molech for Nisan this year will be on Erev Shabbos Kodesh, 1 in the afternoon, with 17 halakha. The new moon will be visible in Yerushalayim at 1:25 p.m., heralding the new month to begin on Friday night. Today, we all live with our iPads and Xbox and Samsung. Sunrise, sunset, and candlelighting, there's an app for that. But about 50 years ago, when I was growing up, every shul had a calendar on the wall, and in small print, each month had its Moed information printed on the bottom. My brother Sheldon decided to computerize this information. Sheldon, with the help of Dr. Alexander Tobias Sheldon, learned all about halachic time and calendars. He mastered Tekufos and Matrios and fed them into an IBM mainframe computer. No graphics, no sound, no color. He produced pages and pages of calendar times, 12 to 13 lines a page, with Moed for, I think, 150 years. He proudly brought that printout to shul, and everyone was impressed. Isaac's Meth's son mastered the computer. A survivor knew computers. So a survivor's son knew computers. Father. Rabbi Stein the Rav pooh-poohed the computer printout. The Gabbai Mr. Marmer was instructed to only announce the times from the trusty calendar. Every month, Mr. Marmer made a point of consulting the printout at the beginning of that, and at the appropriate time would go over to the calendar and read the time on the trusty calendar. Until one fateful Shabbos, when the time was announced, Rabbi Stein banged on the pulpit and said, "Call out the right time." A hurried conference took place at the calendar. The rabbi took out a piece of paper in which he, by hand, calculated the Moed each month. And he looked at the calendar, and lo and behold, it was different. It was different than the perhaps not so trusty calendar. Now, on Shabbos, you're not allowed to do any calculations. Who would be the tiebreaker? You've got the rabbi's little piece of paper on one hand, you've got the trusty calendar on the other. Young folk in the shul, kids that were itching to become whatever the kids want to become, watched with anticipation. The rabbi had no idea. He walked to his palace bag, pulled out Sheldon's trusty printout, and miracle of miracles, the printout at the same time as the rabbi's piece of paper. So I wrote the game and set to the computer. Not really to the computer, to Isaac Meth's son Shemaiah's on. A new procedure was established that Shabbos, for Shabbos Mavar. The Gabi would bring his computer printout to the calendar to make sure the calendar was right, then proceed with the announcement. Sheldon was 18 or 19 years old at that time, and he wrote the family grade and his parents in grade 1. Once again, as the younger brother, I was left with big shoes to fill. And today, the whole family, today I'm the whole family. Left big holes in my heart. That's a moment. 10, 20, whatever, someone was around, whatever, always came to our shop.
We call upon Rabbi Adi Meth.
Community members, family, and friends here. Today, I covered Avram to my father, Nori, Obviously, it would be impossible to encapsulate an entire lifetime in a few brief moments. But even more challenging than that is the arthritis to continue the one thing I'd like to focus on today, which is my father's deep commitment to Torah, transmitting the Yiddishkeit to the next generation. And this Masorah, this dedication to Masorah, manifested itself in two areas that I like to focus on, which is tefillah and learning Torah. As Rabbi Ryan mentioned, my father was born to my grandparents, two Holocaust survivors, who could have left everything behind in Europe, but they chose to remain steadfast to their commitment to Yiddishkeit, which they imbued to their three sons, to my father, the oldest, the Chaim of Israel, Jack, who just heard from. He grew up in Bensonhurst with that legacy from my grandparents, with that connection to Hasidus and to the Faltachiner Stiebel that Jack was just talking about, which I remember so vividly and with such wonderful memories. And he infused that Masorah into his tefillah, which he carried with him here to White. This room is just a room, the people in the room. Sitting there next to my father, every day my davening, every Shabbos. The role model he was by example. How to daven. When I was younger, he was the gabbai. We learned so much just by watching as opposed to being taught. As was already mentioned many times, just the detail and the structure of davening and different minhagim and all of that. The nusach and tefillah. My father was not a chazan. My father was about tefillah. It's a big difference. And as everybody knows, he poured his emotion into that. He was so uplifted by this tzibur. He used to always say after every davening that the tzibur uplifted him. And it was just, it couldn't be done without everybody. It was an untangible thing that could just be felt throughout the room. On Friday, Rabbi Roman came to the hospital. And when he was saying over the tefillah that we say at the end of the Elah, to just hear the Father's voice. Just reading the news 7 times. Who could forget that in Elah? Like I say, it's just intangible. It's something that just comes by osmosis. This devotion to the Masorah is not just with tefillah, as I mentioned, but also with learning Torah. Ryan mentioned my father was very much influenced from an early age by Rabbi Elias Schwartz, Zichrono Livracha, Shiva, used to get a ride with him every morning to yeshiva. In fact, that many years later, he would speak to his children about his ride with his rabbi. It was pretty powerful. Made a rosham on me. I remember my ride to yeshiva with my rabbi. Used to give used to participate in Mr. Sussman's shir every week, every Shabbos. I
still remember when I was younger, maybe fourth grade, he took the time out and just learned some Chumash Rashi, Parshas Shmos, with his son. Started it out one-on-one. I don't remember, I think it was before the Shabbos year. Started out a few weeks, slow pace, bothering Rashi. Why did Rashi say that? You know, maybe a pasuk a week, maybe a pasuk every 2 weeks, with the potato chips and the pretzels. And then slowly but surely, two of my friends came over, it became like a living room for a very long time. Tzaddik, he remembered what was the last thing that I was learning with my father, Yaakov Avinu, Egla Rufa, so he sent the hint with the Agolos. I remember, just told my brother, remember the first Gemara I learned with my father? He had this thing, he wants to start learning Gemara with his son. Urabinu taught me what that meant. A brisa, another brisa, stira, contradiction, that's what the word means. Just like one of the first Gemaras I remember, sitting down with my father. He took his learning so seriously. As I mentioned, his Shabbos Shiur, his Daf Yomi, and as Ryan mentioned, even during his work, having his fire in the back, I know he did love his work very, very much. My brother always said, I don't think we know anybody who loved his work more than he did. I guess it is fun to tour the Gaza Strip in a Black Hawk helicopter. That was way back. But he was so supportive of us, of myself, my brother, learning in yeshiva. He was so proud that his daughter's married with Torah. He had so much nachas from the learning that his grandchildren do. And this achrayus that we have to carry this on, carry on the Torah to the next generation, to be able to learn from that ability to transmit the Masorah not by teaching it, but by living it and being examples to other people. Having our kids sit next to us and just learn what it is to daven, not by pointing the place to them, but just by living and learning and seeing. It's a great thing. It's an unbelievable thing. How will we carry that on? We'll do it. It's Hashem. We'll carry it on. We'll look back to the past. The wonderful memories that we had. Get your kids from that. Rabbi Winter Al-Bashar used to always say that people could just look back into the past, even if they don't have any living role models. It's still shaykh to look back at memories. He was even talking about people that we never knew back in history. We have the opportunity to look back at somebody we didn't know. Somebody who's a great man. Somebody we could still learn from. Yes, for Tzedek.
I call upon son-in-law to make thank you favor.
Speak on behalf of myself, my wife Miri. For a start, there's way too many people to thank. Just wanted to publicly thank some family here that has been very supportive, the immediate family, but my mother, my father, stepfather, Howie, and the whole Kramer and Sheldon family for all the love and support they've given us always in these times. And thank Rabbi, the Shiva, and Rebbitzin for support and guidance, and Rebbe, Randall, Mrs. Randall, for their support and guidance as well. Our whole Campbell family, to whom we have a prayers of hope for all the kind words, support, food, love, always and during these difficult times. We specifically thank the local Misaskim, notably the tremendous efforts of their leader, Mechem Iman, who's been, along with other support, has been a true friend first, but also a guide for this time. It may sound like things are being repeated, but I think it's telling son and son-in-law the same impressions of the father. You think of Shlomo HaMelech, you immediately think of his chachma. Shlomo HaMelech was in Givon. He brought 1,000 korbanos in a day. And Kadosh Baruch Hu appeared to him and asked him what he would request. Shlomo HaMelech didn't request anything other than chachma. Kadosh Baruch Hu was so impressed with his request. Malcolm asks, what was so special about this request? Shlomo HaMelech had some wisdom already. He probably knew that included in the wisdom he could attain all these other things that a person might have requested. It's like asking him for 10 more wishes or something. Chachma would get him to this point of everything else. Malcolm explains that Kadosh Baruch Hu saw the lishma in the wisdom of Shlomo in his request. Shlomo HaMelech wasn't requesting wisdom for honor, glory, for riches. It was to do Hashem's duty for the sake of Hashem and also for the sake of Klal Yisrael. It's also clear that he attributed this not to himself, it was an anava. He attributed this to the sake of his father, David HaMelech. It was all the specials. When you think of Shlomo Zalman and Yitzhak Isaac, you also think of Chachma. You think of the same Chachma. A Chachma that was for the sake of knowing Hashem better. It's a Chachma that plunged the depths of the world we live in, the heavens we gaze at, plunged the depths of the world we strive to live in as well. Olam Torah and the Olam of Ruchnius. He attributed all this Chachma and all this knowledge to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to Spasos. With this Chachma, he recognized a lot about what is in this world, but he also recognized that everything in this world also has a purpose. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it here for a reason. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you your talents for a reason. We need to utilize the things in this world. We need to utilize our own talents because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to us, and it would be a waste otherwise. This understanding of the world, Hashem's world, permeated his work life as well. He was proudly Jewish at work. He was, to many, he was the only Orthodox Jew that people knew. And he knew that, and he represented his role as a true Kiddush Hashem. Abba came into this world, to a shattered world. His father, Zadie, his mother, Bobby, older Bobby, who built their world, their shattered world after the destruction of the Holocaust. To quote his father and mother, we had nothing, and we built an empire. This wasn't an empire of wealth. It was an empire of Yiddishkeit. It was an empire that they were proud that every one of their descendants was not just shown Torah mitzvahs, but lived the life of Torah mitzvahs. Abba grew up in the Fatashana Stiebel, Bensonhurst. Grew up in a world of dedication to the Baba Rebbe. He learned through his Messiah how to connect to this Messiah and to rabbinical guidance. He was a devoted disciple of the Rebbe. He was a devoted Talmud of Rabbi Schwartz, Torah Semis. He was a devoted Talmud of Rabbi Winter's son of Rafa. Now Rabbi Ryan Shlita as well. This is the Messiah, as Avi mentioned, that he passed down to his children. Rabbinical guidance, seeking the Torah's das, and everything in life. Shlomo Melech is not as well known for his tefillah, but it's not something we can miss. He brought 1,000 korbanos in one day. His participation wasn't just giving the animals, but it was the tefillos that accompanied the korban. It's 1,000 Shemona Esrei in a day. After building the base of Mikdash, Shlomo Melech stood for days with a supernatural strength and pure tefillah on behalf of Klal Yisrael, on behalf of there should be a Kiddush Hashem amongst the Goyim as well, and on behalf of everything for Kadosh Baruch Hu. There were days that Abba did not have the strength to get out of bed. Countless surgeries, stents, dialysis. It wasn't physically possible. He stood at the Yomad to lead his beloved Tal, his beloved Tzibur for Shacharis and Elon Yom Narayim. It was supernatural. It was a nace. It was avodas Hashem and an avodas at Tzibur that gave him the strength. It was his Messiahs of his father, the tunes he learned in the Shtiebel, that he carried with him in devotion to his new Tzibur here in Silver Spring. The lessons of his life, of avodas Hashem, as Avi said, is our Messiahs. It's what he's manchil to his children, to Avi, Tamar, myself, and Miri, to Nachum and Penina, to Leah, and Josh, Shmuel, Kate, Sarah, Rachel, Esther, Chava, Aviva, Menucha, Kiva, David, Yitzchak, Isaac, Yosef, Rivka, Benny, Rachel Kramer, and Rachel Forgash. It's our role now to continue in this Messiah, and to take these lessons that we have from Abba, the lessons of the Torah, the lessons that we learned on a clear night, dark, gazing at the stars. Perhaps we should have been packing, gazing at the stars. And he would sit there and explain every constellation and every planet to each one of his kids. And then he would attribute the infinite element of the universe that he knew so well to the ultimate infinite, Bilti Baltachlis, the Borei Olam. I would ask you for Mechila. We could have been more respectful, more helpful. We tried. We hope. Can you muffle us for anything else? Should be a military shirt for mommy, Mishpacha, for your beloved community.
Call upon grandson Shmuel Meth.
speeches said, Zadie, I know you weren't such a fan of long emotional goodbyes. Folks of Lowell's rights, sharp freshman message, the 23rd freshman, encourage everyone to, if you haven't learned it, learn it, and learn it, deposit it, about looking the incredible brios of Torah, from the vastness of the universe, all the galaxies and stars and planets, everywhere, all the way down to the intricacies of a single cell or atom. Zadie, you would be able to explain this Oz better than anyone that your knowledge of science, everything else. And Oz writes that understanding this is the greatest, one of the greatest proofs of Kadosh Baruch Hu is Torah. Zadie, going to a museum with me was a Musar Seder. Suppose those writes in that Feshman that there's a challenge of the fact that constantly showered with the bracha, chesed and Hashem, and all these nisim that it's hard to see Hashem in all the nisim 24/7. Zadie, remember when you brought that Torah, the mitzvah, you told me the enthusiasm that you had, you put in your film for the first time, should be the same enthusiasm every single davening. You showed me that if you came on time to davening, that meant that you were running late. Or was there a few minutes early to get ready? Consistency. You also showed this enthusiasm in your learning. Incredible. Every time that I knew that I would be speaking to Zadie, I would do Alchana beforehand because I know Zadie is not going to give me an easy time. He's going to ask me what I'm learning, and he's holy. And I remember last week, like Doug's bar mitzvah, same thing. He asked me always, how's yeshiva? How's learning? What's this? What singer are you doing? He was right there. I said, well, there it is. I said, oh, Aliyah. The families getting together. You always, that was a very important thing. Families, how it makes. And then there's murals in your different Torah like Shabbos meals, Yom Tov meals. Pesach Seder. Watching you daven. Later, your message about the Seder was always passing on the Torah. Next up, Yisrael. But you're not here. You're not.
miss you so much. We're going to pass out the torch. We're going to raise the banner of Torah ever higher. Continue in college tonight until that awesome day. I don't know. Yeah, Sheldon, small fun. It's up. I'm not sure.
We call upon the son of a Meth.
A couple of thank yous. Thank you all for coming. Come up to my dad. Thank you for years. So much experience. Service. For caring for Zadie so much, taking care of him particularly for the last couple of years. He's going through some many difficulties. I thank this congregation who gave him so much life, who gave him so much purpose and so much meaning. Take a moment to thank you, Helen, for your most incredible gifts. Words can thank you, literally giving a part of yourself. To give my dad a couple more years, got to meet his grandkids. Thank you. Just, I think the last mission of this episode talks about a different time Noam passed away, different midos, different character traits were Butlam and Aholam. They sort of left the world, as if to say, the passing of these great rabbis, these great figures, these great personalities, was an epoch in world history. It represented a threshold, it represented a moment in time where these traits would never be matched. Interesting, the Gemara's Mishnah tells us, Rabbi Akiva, when the great Rabbi Akiva passed away, when the great Rabbi Akiva died, Kavod Torah, the honor for Torah, Butlam and Olam, had ceased to exist. The world would never experience Kavod Torah ever again, quite to the level as it was during the times of Rabbi Akiva. And Rashi explained, to reference the fact that we know the Talmud tells us that Rabbi Akiva used to darshan, he used to look at every word, every letter in the Torah and expound on it. Rashi teaches us that Kavod Torah means you appreciate, honoring the Torah, respect for the Torah means I appreciate every nuance, every letter, everything that we can possibly gain from the Torah. I appreciate that. As has been said, my dad had an incredible appreciation for Torah. I almost finished shots 4 times. At Shabbos afternoon shir, Alan and so many of you who are here today, that was the highlight of his week. It was the highlight of his week. I'll never forget, a number of years ago, they had been studying Masechet Shabbos. I don't know how many years that took. I think more than 10. I remember as a little boy coming, listening to those, the learning group, a bag of potato chips. pretzels and Coca-Cola and nothing else. And they studied Masechtas Shabbos. It wasn't a race. It was thorough. It was meticulous. Year after year after year. My entire childhood was my dad and that learning group. Every Shabbos. And then finally they finished. They made a scene, and I'll never forget. I drove. I was already studying in yeshiva. It was such a moment. I decided I had to come to participate, and I came. And I'll never forget, my winter blessed memory, during Shalosh, I think it was a Shalosh Shudis, and I'll never forget, he gets up, says, "This is white at its finest." What's interesting is that the Mishnah that I quoted, that Mishnah in Sota continues, and it says, "Mishemeis Rabbi Gamliel Hazakim," when the great Rabbi Gamliel passed away, Batla Kavod Torah. That again, Kavod Torah, the honor of Torah, it ceased to exist. And it seems a bit of a contradiction because the Mishnah just a few lines earlier says that Kavod Torah ceased to exist when Rabbi Akiva passed away. I think, I'm not sure, but I believe Rashi is trying to answer this question. He explains, I think this is what Rashi is telling us. When Rabbi Akiva passed away, the Kavod Torah was the scholarship. That scholarship that Rabbi Akiva had, no one ever matched it. But Rashi tells us that when Rabbi Gamliel passed away, it says during the times of the great Rabbi Gamliel, the tradition was that when people would study Torah, they would stand. They would only study Torah when they were standing. Apparently, when Rabbi Gamliel passed away, it just wasn't practical to be able to learn with the same intensity, with the same focus while you were standing. So the tradition changed, and people began to sit and they would study Torah. And I think what Rashi is explaining, I think what Rashi is telling us is that there are two elements of Kavod Torah. There's the elements of if you really appreciate Torah, you study it, you analyze it, you pay attention to every detail that the Torah has to offer us. But there's a second component to Kavod Torah, to honoring the Torah. And that means, how do we externally treat the Torah? Do we treat the Torah with respect? It's one thing to study the Torah, it's another thing to stand while I study the Torah. Because I'm showing it honor, I'm showing it the glory that it is. And the last couple of days have been really, really tough, but we've done a lot of reflecting. And it really struck me that I think that was one of the real defining points of my dad. He appreciated Torah so much. Specifically, he appreciated rabbis. He appreciated Torah scholars. I'll never forget one of the most powerful lessons my dad ever taught me. I was a pretty decent student in high school. I see someone like Ben here, you might disagree. I think I was a pretty well-behaved kid. And I'll never forget, I was in the yeshiva, and it was completely my fault, but there was one episode in my life where, I wasn't treating one of my rebbeim with the respect that I should have. And my dad got wind of it, and I'll never forget walking home from Shul Friday night, exactly where I was, right at the top of Burnt Mills, after the light, top of that hill. I don't remember the words that he said. He wasn't angry, he wasn't upset, it wasn't a lecture. Something that he said, no, that's not how we treat a rabbi. It's not how we treat someone who represents Torah. Kavod Torah means not just ourselves studying the Torah, but appreciating Torah scholarship, appreciating those who are involved in Torah study. My dad insisted that his children have deep relationships with their rebbeim. Greatest nechamas that I had. Just imagine me in my mind, in Shiva Shamayla, and having dad sitting next to Rabbi Winter Sassal Steiner. That's all he would want. Winter asked him to sheep. He treated Israel with such respect, with such kavod, with such a defining part of his life. Hevel Havalim, says Kavalas. My dad was one of the most low-maintenance guys I've ever met in my life. I'm wearing his watch right now. You probably can't see it. This is the most simple watch you could possibly imagine. Material possessions meant nothing to him. He drove the simplest cars. He wore the simplest clothing. I think he still has the same belt for the last 40 years. Right? He was such a simple person. If you knew him for 5 minutes, you understood him. He was a very uncomplicated guy. My favorite stories. And that came out in many, many ways. How he dressed, his material possessions, just his whole outlook on life. It was very, very simple. It's a great story. I was in yeshiva, I was single, and it was a bit of a spur-of-the-moment decision. I'd been studying yeshiva for quite a while, and it was right after Pesach, and a couple of my buddies decided they wanted to go study in Eretz Yisrael, they wanted to study in yeshiva in Israel. And it was a great opportunity. It was really a wonderful group of friends, a group of Habrusos, and I decided I really wanted to join in. A group of guys, and it was spur of the moment, really wasn't planned, and it really made the most sense. I spoke to my Rebbe, and I thought it would be a good idea, so discussed it over, and I decided, I wanted to leave to Israel. I thought there wasn't going to be a long time, maybe 2 months. And I called Mom. I called you on the phone. I said, Mom, I think I want to go to Israel to study for a little bit. Naturally, Mom, our baby is going to be 6,000 miles away. She was so concerned. Really, are you sure? It's going to be so hard. Mom, it's only 2 months. Back and forth, we haggled. And 45 minutes later, the decision was settled. I was going to go to Eretz Yisrael. I called my dad. I said, Abba, I think I want to go to Eretz Yisrael for a little bit. On the other line, he says, is this the best thing for your learning? I said, yeah, I think so. Great. Less than a 2-minute phone call. A lot has been discussed about my dad. His professional life was definitely a significant part of who he was. As an African rabbi, I meet a lot of people. And one of the things I love to do whenever I meet someone, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, one of the things I love to do in having coffee and having lunch with someone, I'll ask them, what do you do? Oh, I'm a physician. I love asking, do you enjoy it? You know what the most common response is when I ask someone that? It's fascinating. Do you enjoy what you do? The most common response is the following. They'll go like this. Do I enjoy what I do? Stall for a minute, and then give whatever answer they give. And it's always struck me how we're all a little unreflective of a very defining part. What we do professionally is, for most of us, a big part of our lives. It occupies a lot of our time. And most people, I don't know, maybe we don't define it so much, we don't even reflect. Do I enjoy it? My dad loved what he did. My dad was never going to retire. A couple of reasons for that. I mentioned my dad, grandparents were Holocaust survivors. My dad, he was a patriot. He loved his country. And he took great pride knowing that he was helping to defend in his little way, defend our country, defend Israel, defend the whole world. He took great pride in it. But he loved science. There's no way around that. He loved science. It's been mentioned he had a great way of just integrating science, the neflos habore, the wonders of creation, into his professional life, but it became really a part of him. It's a great story. A couple of years ago, he was out in Vegas with his circus last year. And if you're ever out in Vegas, go check out Red Rock Canyon. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. And, we went on a little hike around Red Rock Canyon. And he was pointing to the different rock formations and the red colors and all the different things that were out there. And he was explaining to us, the way my dad would, how, that formation, that's from the Proterozoic era, and that's from the Proterozoic era, 18 billion years ago. There used to be an ancient ocean on the top over there. And I remember just a moment later, and then with the same breath, he would turn around and he would say, Marak Masah. Now, to many, that might sound like a contradiction. Do you believe in Marak Masah Hashem? The universe is 5,779 years old? Or do you believe that rock was from the Proterozoic era, 14 billion years ago? If you knew my dad, you knew that wasn't a contradiction. His ability to look at the world around us and to be so inspired, Marabu Mansech Hashem, how awesome are your creations, God. My dad was a brilliant man. He was a brilliant man. I noticed his observation is Vegas gets, the temperature shifts in the morning and at night are vast. It could shift 30 degrees between night and day. And I noticed that it's interesting, it's very dry out in Vegas, but on the humid days, when it's very humid, every now and again you'll get a humid day in Vegas, you don't get the same temperature shift. And I was wondering, does humidity have something to do with temperature shift? Does anyone know the answer to that? I doubt, or it could be someone in this room knows the answer to that. I was thinking about that, and it was on my list. I always used to call my dad with dumb questions like that. If anyone to answer that question, I had the opportunity to ask him. I always ask him these random questions. It's a funny story. It was a couple of years. It was last year. I'd been reading a biography on Albert Einstein. I got up to general relativity. Man, it's tough. I remember I called up my dad and said, Abba, I've been reading this biography. Can you explain general relativity to me? He said, Nahum, I said, yeah. He says, did you realize that Albert Einstein was one of the smartest people to ever live? He said, yeah, sure. Did you realize that it took Einstein 14 years to develop the general theory of relativity? I said, yeah. He says, and you want me to explain general relativity in 60 seconds? I said, yeah. He went on, he explained it in 60 seconds, and then he went on, and only the way that my dad would, he threw in, and by the way, remember that the Ricci's tensor, which is apparently part of general relativity? He says, you know that you do realize that it correlates perfectly with Kabbalistic thinking. He went on to explain different spiros and alamos, things that are way beyond my pay scale. That was my dad. Should be noted, he wasn't just a science geek. If you knew him well, you knew he actually had a very quiet side to him. He was pretty good at the liberal arts, too. My dad was a little bit, one of the things that my mom, Chaim Tovin, she's, every morning has to do that crossword puzzle. She's an addict. But every now and again, if she'd be stumped, so my dad would be like the Mariano Rivera, the closer, the crossword puzzles, and you'd hear something like, Shlomo Zalman, give me an 8-letter word for capital of Southern California. My dad would nail it. He knew so much. He had a brilliant vocabulary. He was an artist. He was an incredible doodler. It's a remarkable dude. You probably never knew that. It's really, really hard to say goodbye. He's such a special person, meant so much to so many in this room. In our family, we have a story that we all cherish. My dad's father, Elder Zadie, blessed memory, when he was in Europe, before the war, as all hell was breaking loose. The story goes that the previous Baba Rebbe, Sienna shouldn't come to him, turned to my grandfather, gave him a blessing. He said, "Well, you got it, Rick. Anyway, Allah. Your efforts shouldn't be Larik for no purpose." Because I'll tell us it's a preference that your descendants should be immersed in Torah. Grandfather always believed that bracha was to carry him through the darkest times. Something that our families always cherish. Now that my dad isn't here anymore, it's our charge. Make sure we live up to that sacred blessing. Rick, David, Levaya, carry through. It's been a very difficult last couple of days. Last Shabbos, spent that in Hopkins. I'm very hopeful that he'd have a turnaround. At noontime last week on Shabbos, numbers weren't looking great. My dad was awake, he was alert. We were laughing. And he said he needs to go on to a different type of machine. It's a pretty tough spot, and he would have to be sedated. I had a sneaking suspicion that this would be the last time I'm going to be able to talk to my dad. Held his hand. I told him, I said, "Abba, I know the story. It's a tough spot. Let's pray together." He started crying. I started crying. He was clutching my hand. Second to last thing he ever said to me, "Take the belt. God runs the world." He turned to me and said, "Mama, I'm proud of you." I miss him dearly. So, family, I want to ask Phila, treating us as well as we should have. God should give us the strength, the courage to move on, to continue his legacy.
Every person has a day of birth and a day of passing. The saying goes that it's the dash in between that really matters. And that dash of Dr. Sheldon Meth was the integration of Torah, understanding creation to the extent we can, and appreciating human advances without fear. What others called coincidence, with great confidence, he called hashgacha. During his lifetime, during his dash, he pleaded our case well. As a shliach tzibur, he studied Torah with devotion, loved his family, loved his friends. And it's only fair, because the Yom Norah was so big a part of his life, to apply the pasuk that we recite collectively as Klal Yisrael, as the Yom Norah conclude. Yiyu divarai eila asher ischananti. May it be that these words, this way of life, that I lived with devotion, with pleading before Hashem, Krovim el Hashem Elokeinu yomam v'layla, should remain dear and close to Hashem day and night. Lasos mishpat adu mishpat anu Yisrael d'nayom b'yomam. To continue to provide the family and community each day as it's needed. May he be a Be'etz Yosha, his beloved life partner, his wife, the family, children, beloved grandchildren, and for donos for generations. Lech b'shalom v'saluach b'shalom v'samod l'koralcha l'ketz hayomim. We express our condolences to wife Marsha, brother and sister-in-law Chaim and Gitti Mateh, brother and sister-in-law Jack and Rochelle Meth, and children Rabbi Avi and Tamar Meth, Rabbi Danny and Miri Kramer, Rabbi Nachman and Penina Meth, Rabbi Yeshua and Leah Forgash, and Leah and Nora, many grandchildren. Bila Alavis Lanetzach, Nocha Hashem Lekim Dino Me'al. May Hashem remove pain, and may He lovingly wipe away our tears forever. Please rise. This time we ask for Chila from Shlomo Zalman, Ben Yitzchak Isaac. Kizara Kia Pasilis Nishmas, which Lobas Amen, it's my guys, I shall have the Onamo, but wish I know that to drop of Yanos Taras Nishmaso. We can aid it in the Faso. Rochei, Mother Nachamim, yesterday you say, second of all the Yitzro, Achayim es Nishmaso, Adonai Ulechadoso, V'yanuach HaMishkabot V'Shalom, V'nomar Amen. You may be seated for a moment. Quick informational announcements. The Geburah will be in Eretz Yisrael. There will be a brief day of Shiva in Eretz Yisrael in the home of Jane Eli Zitter in Beit Shemesh, Rehov HaShita. Particularly for those who are listening in to the live stream from Eretz Yisrael, I'll announce the contact information. The home number is 02-999-0118, and the cell number is 054-756-6592. Following a brief Shiva in Eretz Yisrael, the family will return and will sit here in White Oak. At this point, we call upon the pallbearers to lead us in the escort.